Hi everybody, good morning. This is Jean here, Jean Truelove from Truelove Quilts for You. And as you can see, I have finished my pink, gray, and white bandana quilt top made with just 12 bandanas. I have a playlist on how I got to this point. The little videos to come, the clips to come after my introduction here, just showing you how I have it up on my design tablecloth. I have a flannel black tablecloth right here that my blocks were sticking to, and as you can see, this is a 6 block across and 8 rows down little quilt here, just a little like a lap quilt or a nice big throw quilt. I was doing the blocks on my design wall more on the horizontal, starting with 8 blocks across that way because of the size of my design wall. But I suggest that you go to createwithclaudia.com, as I've said in my previous videos. This is not my pattern. It was a free pattern on the internet from createwithclaudia.com. And it's very interesting, very simple when you step back from this quilt layout, how it's constructed, the mirror image blocks that we have created. You could get a little bit confused with the layout. So I heartily recommend you go to Create with Claudia. And there is let me just show you here. This is from her website here. Hopefully you can see it. It's a diagram. Again, this was done on this horizontal. It's a diagram of the block layout, okay, for this quilt. And as you can see, I just do it like the 2 flying geese, going down, going up, and going in. That's how I'm looking at it, because as I have said all along, you don't have to use bandanas for this quilt. You absolutely could have just used regular fabric. It's just 48 half square triangle blocks. That's it. But it's the actual configuration of how it's put together. So if you were using 3 different fabrics, I would recommend perhaps you print this out and then you fill it in, maybe with colored markers or colored pencils, the actual colors of your fabrics, so you don't get confused. It's fairly simple because, as I say again, if you step back at it, it's just the flying geese units and then the middle unit, creating the square here. This has been done with bandanas, as I was saying. Very inexpensive quilt. If you've been following along, you know that I interfaced with a very lightweight fusible interfacing. I interfaced my bandanas because they were thin. I have made this quilt before, as you have seen in my previous videos. I made it with bandanas yet again. I made it in like the coral, like a tie-dye bandana. Now this quilt has been washed and worn, and I'll tell you, the bandanas have washed up beautifully. I will now sandwich my quilt and I'll quilt it, and then yeah. All right, I hope you enjoy this video, folks, just of the little clips to come of how I put my blocks together. Yeah, it's real pretty. All right, thanks. See you later. Love from the Trueloves. Bye-bye. But over here, I have my sort of design tablecloth clamped up here, and I'm going to be just moving my quilt for reference, how I'm going to be putting up my gray, white, and pink blocks. I'm going to be moving this quilt so it's on the horizontal, that's all. So I can just refer back to here, and then when I put the blocks up, you can see how the blocks, if you are making the bandana quilt, how the blocks are going to go. So we're going to be doing the 8 blocks across when it's this way, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blocks down, as it were. So I'm just going to change this quilt over, and then we'll start putting my blocks up on my design wall here. So I'm working with this pattern here by Claudia. I'll put the link down below. This is a free pattern, and as you can see, I'm working with 16 left, 16 right, 8 left, and 8 right for my pink and gray quilt here. And I'm following this pattern here, and as you can see, I've started my top row, and as I was saying, it's 8 blocks across. This is on the horizontal. We're just making, as it were, large flying geese right here, okay? And then the flying geese going this way with a forced square in the middle, the flying geese going that way and up. So if you're just using plain fabric, you can see how this quilt is evolving. Again, you can see my second row here, and my flying geese are very prominent. And the beauty of it when making it with these bandanas, if you get the same sort of manufacturer bandanas, is the pattern, the secondary pattern that the actual bandana fabric makes, and how it evolves. And so now we're going to be working on our third row. I've done my third row here, and as you can see, this is where the pattern right here on the bandana goes slightly rogue there, as you can see that. On that piece there and on that piece there, the curve goes that way. But as you can see, if you're using the bandana prints, the curves are all going in the proper way, except that little funky bit there and there. And then it'll be on the next row also. Again, my fourth row is now done, and you're always looking for the flying geese. You're always looking for the flying geese. If you're getting confused with the left and right, just remember you're always looking for the flying geese. So some are on the left, some are on the right, some are on the right, some are on the left. So you have to be careful. But again, if you're using just plain fabrics, just always look for your two-color flying geese. So I've done my 5 rows. I only have 1 row left of my 48 blocks. So there we have it, folks. We have 6 rows, 6 down and 8 across. I've already stitched the bottom 3 rows together. Well, not together. I've stitched the squares together. So right now, what I'm going to do, let me just put this up a little bit. Oh, you can't see it. Yes. What I'm going to do is how I've done this. I take my first one over here on the left, and I put it on top of my second. And then I just continue keeping that going. I'll put the pins back here. Just one on top of the other, from left to right. Don't get out of order. And I'll collect all 8 of my blocks. And then I'll go over to my machine and I'll just make the row. As I said, I've already sewn these 3 rows together, the blocks together, not the rows together. I will just go over and I'll press these seams. I've just put them up on my design wall. I'll press these seams, and then I just will finish this row. I'll take my machine over and I'll take you over to my machine and show you how I do it. And then I'll do the top row, and then we can just put our quilt together. These are the blocks as I've taken them off my design wall. I'm going to pick up my first one. I'll put the others over here. And we're always going to do pretty side to pretty side. I'm going to pick this up, and we're just going to turn it around like this. Now, I hope you can see, the last video, we squared up our blocks really good, if you remember. We squared them up so well, and that's so important when we're going to sew our rows and our blocks together, because as you will see in one moment, how well that our points match up. And then I have the 1/4 inch. So I'm just going to be continuing along. I'll pick up my next one, pretty side to pretty side, and again, I'm not, as you can see, I'm not even having to use a pin or clips or anything, because we've sewn them so well. I mean, we've cut them so well, pretty side to pretty side. And then you'll remember I'm saying about the pattern creating our flying geese, and as you can see, our flying geese are being created. I'm just one on top of the other until I do all 8. there is my 8 blocks across on my second row, and I'll just go over, and I will actually take the time to open up these seams and press them open, because there will be some bulk here at this point. So I'll just take the time on all my 6 rows to press these seams open. I'm starting to sew my rows together. This is the top row, and again, because I've cut them and sewed the blocks and my squares together really well, by all means you want to put pin here at these intersections. You can do. Okay, as you can see, I have pressed my seams open. As you can see there, that there's some pieces of my interfacing that didn't go right to the seam, but that's okay. It's in the body of the quilt here. Again, my seams are open, and a 1/4 inch seam, and I'll just continue. That one's perfect. Oh, I could have gone a little bit closer. Perhaps my 1/4 of an inch. You see that? This is a 1/4 of an inch. Perhaps my 1/4 of an inch was a little bit out. That one's pretty perfect. Yeah, these ones my 1/4 of an inch. That one's perfect. It's interesting. That's interesting. That one's pretty perfect, actually. I don't want to bother with that. Let me just see. Yeah, maybe I could just go a little bit wider on those. So I'll just go a little bit wider of the seam. Oh yeah, maybe I can see that. A little bit wider of the seam to get that point there. That one's perfect. Just a little bit wider there, and a little bit wider there. And then I'll just continue adding my rows.